Hello again, it's Tripp Harrison at Twiford Funeral Home in Manteo, North Carolina, on the beautiful Outer Banks, continuing our series, When Someone Dies. These videos are intended to be of help to those who are dealing with the death of a loved one, obviously, and specifically the logistical issues. It's an emotional time, an unpleasant time, and a difficult time for most people. And so we think it's important to talk about some of the logistical tasks that have to be accomplished and things that need to be considered, which often are done under duress. And we'd like to sort of take that element of emotional response out of it so people can think about this ahead of time in dealing with the funeral. But today we're going to talk about the death of a veteran of the U.S. military. The U.S. has had many loyal, patriotic men and women who served their country in the military from the very beginning. And up until the Civil War, soldiers were buried often where they were killed. And it was Abraham Lincoln that decided that was not a humane or appropriate practice. And in 1862, the Congress set aside 14 areas to have national cemeteries for those veterans to be buried at the government's expense and to thank them posthumously for their service. And today there are 155 national cemeteries and almost 120 more state and territory or tribal owned cemeteries. So that idea has grown larger, and we do have a special place in our heart and in our society for those who have served us. And on behalf of where I am at Twiford Funeral Homes, we thank you very much for your service. And these are some of the things that we'd like for you to look for no matter where you are. You might not be in eastern North Carolina, so you're in Iowa or Texas or Alaska or Canada, and you're wondering about what your country or state's rules are about burial and or a final disposition of your loved ones who have served in your military. I can speak to the U.S. and I can speak to what we know in a broad sense. The federal government does offer a few special considerations for veterans at the time of their death. One of those benefits is free burial space in a national or military cemetery. We've all seen pictures of Arlington National Cemetery. Some of you have been there. That's just one example of the many government military cemeteries. And when a U.S. military member passes away, they have the option of choosing a space, and they will also get a space for their spouse in that cemetery. And they are also given a free marker or monument. We typically think of Arlington, we think of those white marble slabs that have engraved in them the information about the deceased, but in some cemeteries it's different. Sometimes they use brass floor level or ground level markers that have that information embossed in the brass. So, but that is, those are two of the options. The third option is, or the third benefit, I should say, is a U.S. flag that is presented from the federal government and placed on the casket if there's a viewing or funeral or burial. And if not, it can be presented already folded. But the flag at the end of the service where there's a casket involved is folded typically by representatives of that military branch who are sent out to fold the flag and present it to the family. And again, this is a way of honoring the dignity of their service to our military, and that is an important part of their life, so it's an important part for us to remember. Now, additionally, most funeral homes honor the patriotism and the bravery of our veterans with some sort of special pricing on some things. In our case at Twiford Funeral Homes, we have two very special veterans packages, which basically sort of encompasses all the little individual things that you might expect to pay for at a funeral, puts them together in a package, and gives it a military theme. For example, if a family chooses burial. If there's cemetery property, either military cemetery property, or if a family chooses to bury their loved one who served in a private cemetery or a city cemetery or a church cemetery. Regardless, we have a package put together for all those other services and caskets and whatnot. For example, we have some military-themed caskets that really honor the branch of service that your loved one was serving in, whether it was last week or 50 years ago. We have those, which is a very special thing. And then we also reduce the price of everything for our veterans and their families, because the service that they provided for us in defending our country is the reason that we're able to have a business today and serve families today. So we do a very nice discount for those services. We also have that same sort of thing for families that choose cremation. Their loved one can still have a military service and the flag presented, but the services are all discounted. We also have, not part of our package, but we have available a number of military-themed urns for the cremated remains of loved ones whose family has chosen cremation for them, and they have various military insignia on them, or the seals of the branches of service, or American Eagle, or flags, things like that. So there's a lot of variety available in that sort of thing, and most funeral homes will have that kind of a selection. So know that if you did lose a loved one and they are being cremated, and they were a military member and that was a big part of their life, a big thing to them, they don't just have to be in an urn that's a plain steel urn. There can be something very special for them. So another thing that's important to know is arrangements for funerals for military families can be made in advance. Since 2016, the VA has accepted pre-need determination of eligibility, which basically means in order to get these veterans benefits that I'm talking about, it's just essential to prove to the VA office that your loved one was a veteran, and that's typically done by presenting them with a form called a DD-214. That's a standard form that just basically is confirmation that your loved one has served in the U.S. military. So beyond all this, some families are eligible for further funeral expense reimbursements. Just depends on what the situation is, and the best thing to do there to find out eligibility is to go to the VA office local to your area, or call them, or you can go to www.va.gov, and it will give you information about additional eligibility for expenses. Veteran cemetery benefits include a memorial web page that also applies to those who are cremated. They have their own memorial web page dedicated to their memory, and family members can visit the unique web page of any veteran who's hosted in one of our national cemeteries, and continue to post photos and documents and other things that are part of their legacy. One last thing here to add, I can't speak for funeral homes all over the country, but I know Twiford Funeral Home extends all of these benefits that we've discussed here that are funeral home based to the first responders. So again, the military things that are granted from the government those are government related and government sponsored benefits. But the things that the funeral home does in terms of discounting and all of that, we also provide that for current and former first responders. It's EMS, fire, rescue, police, that sort of thing. So it's important to mention when you go to your funeral home to make arrangements the next time you have to handle the passing of a loved one, is ask them if they have that sort of a package available for your loved one because of their service, whether it's in the military or as a first responder. That's all I've got today, but thanks for being with me. This is Tripp Harrison from Twiford Funeral Home in Manteo, North Carolina. We'll see you on the next video.